All right, by now you know the basics of n8n. You know how to put a trigger, build an AI agent, attach some memory and some tools, and run an AI agent. Now let's go to the focus of our workshop, which is kind of like building this very comprehensive n8n workflow. If we focus first in this simple mode, which is this much, and then focus entirely on the advanced mode, the other part. In this simple one, you almost are there. You just need to add a few more things and then you're done. So the first thing is we're going to change the trigger from that chat to something that comes from a Google Sheet. In order to do that, just delete this, add a new one called Sheets. If you type Google Sheets, you'll only see the triggers, and the one that we are looking for is on row added. We're going to add this. Before we go and fill this form, I need to explain a few things. So when you add a trigger, you need to make sure that it's snapped here with the other elements. Otherwise, what will happen is the trigger will happen, the n8n workflow will start executing here, and then the execution will stop here because it's not snapped to another element. This is important. Now, before we actually choose which Google Sheet we want to add, I want to emphasize on this. How do you do that? Like, first create a Google form. Creating a Google form is super simple. If you have never used it before, you just need to sign up for your Google account and then you can create a form. And then it asks you whether you want to put it on a Google Sheet. You put it on a Google Sheet, you end up in this kind of a format. It automatically creates this Google Sheet for you. Now, when you add this particular trigger, n8n asks you, how often do you want me to pull data from this? Choose every minute, because you want to know new leads coming almost real time. And then from here, before that, from this drop down, you can authenticate your Google Sheet by literally clicking there. And then from this list, you can see all of your Google Sheets that you have available. And then the one that you have just created, pick that one and the right sheet from there. So this is basically this Google Sheet with this sheet inside that Google Sheet. All right, and then now when it will be triggered, it's the moment a row is added. So what happens is basically Google form adds a row in that Google Sheet, and then Google Sheet triggers this workflow. And then that's pretty much it. You get a trigger as soon as a form is filled and submitted. Now, how do you do this is by turning this thing on. If you click this, it turns on the workflow for you, and then you can, right now we don't have to, I'm just explaining it. If you click on this and then turns it on, it basically is available publicly, or it's available and it's running in the background. So as soon as a Google Sheet row is added, this workflow will be triggered, and you should be able to see a running item in here. All right. So we don't need memory for this. We're going to remove that, and yet we don't need these two components in here. And also we don't need this. As soon as a row is added, we are going to do something about it. Like, we're going to evaluate what is inside that information. So I already have a form filled in the start of this demo. I don't need to rerun it again. I am going to execute and rely on that form data. So if I execute this workflow in here, you will see that it brings one item with it when this is triggered, this workflow is triggered. If I double click this, you will see that this particular data sitting in here is exactly the data that we have on that Google Sheet here. that was submitted from that form submission. And in this input area, you can switch this to schema by seeing it like this, and table by seeing it like this. Schema is an easier way, so we can just keep it like that. Now, in here, we had this system prompt in a way that we said like you're an helpful assistant and so on in the previous lecture. Now, I would like you to change this to define below, and then system prompt would be simply giving something like this. Give this lead a score from 1 to 10. Which lead? And this is the moment when you are going to add all of this data that is coming from right here into this location. How do you do that? Is the first step, you need to click on this expression. The next step is that you press on your keyboard the curly braces or brackets twice, and then you see this JSON item. Click on that or select it. Make sure that you don't see this object. This is something that does not need to go in your AI agent. Your AI agent needs to see the entire data from here. In order to do that, probably this is the only line of code that you'll ever write in your entire workflow series or this lectures. You need to write here JSON as it is, dot stringify. And then you put these parentheses around this. So make sure that you go exactly in the same format. And then now in here, you don't see this object, you see the entire object or this entire so-called JSON the way it is in here. You can see the way it is here, it appears in this result or preview place. That's good. Now the system prompt needs to be changed a little bit. I'm going to copy the system prompt from here. This is also a place where you can, especially these big strings and these JSONs and so on, you can share it using that Google Doc. You share the text with that Google Docs, and then the users can, or the participants of your workshop can move faster instead of like typing it from your screen. All this system message is saying is like, you're a helpful assistant, you can help and you can help qualify leads. Qualifying leads or something like that. And then you put your hypothesis here, like your business focus. Our business wants to engage with companies with that have at least 1,000 employees, but you can enhance this prompt. You can imagine how you can do prompt engineering better in this location. Now, if I go out and save my workflow, this is the time which I can already see what's happening. If I re-execute this, based on just one simple prompt, I should be able to see something in here. It says the lead should be scored 10. Reason, blah, blah, blah. Because I said like we have like 3,500 employees and so on, and my hypothesis is like at least they should have like 1,000 employees in order for us to make sense to get engaged with them. The output of ChatGPT is correct, but it's not in a way that I want to use it down the road in my workflows. So because I have certain things to do with that number, and also especially when I'm storing it in this Google Sheets bag like this as a lead score as a number and a reason, I need these two pieces of information separately, not in one chunk of text. In order to do that, you need to turn on this toggle button called required specific output format, and then go outside. Now you will see that there is a new element in your AI agent called output parser. Click on that and then click on structured output parser. And then in here you can give an example of how this should look like. This is also the time where you can copy this as string and paste it inside that Google Docs that you have shared with your audience. Then they can copy paste it from there. But it's basically a JSON that shows the AI on how to produce that output. There should be two elements, lead some number, or lead score some number, and then the reason, some reason. And then you click outside to see your entire workflow, save it. Now execute it again. This time your lead is evaluated exactly the same way as before. But if you double click to see the output, you'll see that the output is not coming as one big text, a chunk of text, but it's coming as like 2 elements that can be in the next steps of our workflow, individually used and stored somewhere. So the lead score is 10, the reason is this one. All right, that's nice. Now, what do we do next with this is interesting. Like you see here, the plus button in that one item, it means like whatever comes from this one node is going to be executed down the road as many times as you see a number in here. I'm going to click on this plus sign and I will add Google Sheets. And this time there's another feature called update row in sheet. The reason is because now we have a sheet, sorry, a value, the score and the description or the reason behind that. And we want to execute that and save it there. So click on that. And then you have already your Google Sheets authenticated. And then from this list, you need to select exactly which one was it. It was sample form responses, this sheet. And column to match is the column from where it will find out exactly which user are you talking about. I think email address is unique enough. We'll go with email. And then in the schema, you can open the Google Sheets trigger. You have the email address. You can drag and drop the email address here. And then we don't want to update the other fields. The other fields are okay. The timestamp, email, full name, LinkedIn, all the other fields you can delete. We don't need them. We just need to update the lead score and the score reason. We're going to drag and drop those 2 fields like this, and we're good to go. And just save it, get out of this workflow, and now your workflow is almost getting there. So your workflow just arrived to this layer. So literally this part of the workflow you're almost done with. The rest of them will do it one by one. So let's give it a try. Now if I execute this, because this entire solution is already there, it will execute and you will not see any difference. So I'm gonna just remove those 2 fields to make the point and execute it one more time. Now if all this workflow has been executed correctly, this data that is generated now should be here, which you can see it's already storing in here. So with that, this lecture comes to an end. Let's go to the next lecture by enhancing our workflow in order to add a condition. If it's a workflow or it's a lead that has a score of more than 8, then I need to get a Slack notification. See you there.